Well, some people in the Walnut Bayou Water District remain under a do not use water restriction. Good evening to you. I'm Jennifer Andrews. Well, this comes after a line break on Tuesday. Charles Burkett has our update.
You had a water line that was broken. That positive pressure being pushed out became a negative pressure because of the break.
A room full of residents gathered in the Walnut Bayou Water District office to discuss the situation with their contaminated water after health officials say a company installing a fire line broke the water line late Tuesday. Louisiana Surgeon General Dr. Ralph Abraham explains what happened next.
Unfortunately, at the same time, you had an individual that was filling a tank with chemical in it, and when the water broke, sucked that water back into the system instead of pushing it into the tank.
Usually when farmers are filling tanks with these chemicals, systems like a stopgap or check valve are used to prevent this exact situation. Community members told KNOE impatience may have played a part, and that is delaying the repair of the water line and the return of safe water.
We're dealing with a chemical that we call paraquat, and that is a herbicide that is used to take leaves off of crops so they can be harvested.
Abraham has treated patients in the past that came in contact with the chemical. He says anyone who's ingested the chemical could have symptoms of nausea and headaches, and without treatment, it can even be deadly.
What we're telling people, what I'm telling people is just the old country doctor. If you even think you've been exposed, touched it, swallowed it, whatever, and you are experiencing anything that is not normal, seek medical help, at least find out.
Residents at the meeting praised the work from the LDH, JCP management, and GOSEP for the swift response ensuring the safety of the community. In Madison Parish, Charles Burkett, KNOE 8 News.